Hello and welcome to episode 7. Today I want to look at likelihoods. I want to do this one in a bit of a Watch Mojo style, but instead of a top 10, I want to look at a top 5. In considering my retirement, teachers have what's called the 85 factor, where the number of years you've taught factored with your age. When they both add up to 85, you can retire without penalty. Now, I had taught for several years after my 85 factor. And so each year I was thinking, should I have retired already or should I wait? And of course, when I finally did, it was with mixed emotion. And I thought, what might have happened had I returned? So today I want to examine the top 5 likelihoods. We get into a rhythm, right? I was institutionalized. Revision. I didn't like the way that sounded. Didn't like the way it came across. Earl Haig was the best school in Toronto. It was a privilege, in the old-fashioned sense of the word, to work there. Nevertheless, it is an institution, one in which I was heavily invested for 2 decades. And as I mentioned in my first episode, I have a hard time getting Earl Haig out of my head. Even in my dreams, I imagine that I have to complete tasks soon. There's a rhythm, an ongoing rhythm to it. So starting from number 5, I would say it's likely that on my IRP, my grade 12 independent reading project list, I would have included Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabriel Zevin. It's the best book I've read since June 28th, 2024. And the characters in it are video game designers. And it got a fair bit of hype and it won a number of awards. I wasn't sure that was something that I would like. I loved it. It's great. I think it's so well written and it's accessible to kids. When I say kids, I mean young people under 50. And I'd love to promote that. I think that would end up in my class challenging 10 minutes and 38 seconds in this strange world as the most coveted IRP novel. Number 4, I think had I returned, if I was teaching Hamlet again, which of course I would be, I would have spent some more time on Wittenberg, the university where Hamlet was forbidden to return. Because that's the place Martin Luther did a lot of, he was exploring new approaches to faith. And it's a great comparison of what's going down and how much William Shakespeare had his pulse on faith and change and the English Renaissance. Anyway, I would have done that. The third likelihood, number 3, I really wish if I could go back in time, I could have rescued more items, videos, materials from my hard drive, my Google Suite. I was warned that when you retire, it's gone. I thought I could figure out a way to get into my Google Suite, my TDSB one, but there's no way. It's stopped, and I regret that. I had a lot of material strictly for nostalgic reasons I'd like to get at. The number 2 likelihood is sponsored today by a question I received from Vincent Shia on LinkedIn. He wanted me to explore my rationale for banning electronic devices in classrooms. And I've given a lot of thought to this because he wanted to know what I thought of the cell phone ban that the Ontario government put into place. I think the cell phone ban, first of all, is terrific. I'd be a huge cheerleader of it. If I taught you, you know that I asked you to put your cell phones in your knapsack before you entered the classroom. I sent a letter home stating that that was my wish. And recently I read an article in the Walrus magazine by a Kate Dwyer, and it's called The Collapse of Self-Worth in the Digital Age. Now, she's not so much addressing the classroom. She's looking at it from the point of view of an artist. But she references the novelist Sally Rooney, who sells a gazillion novels, and she's not on X or social media at all. And she has what Dwyer refers to as deactivation privilege. And I've talked to a number of people, including some of my offspring, who exercise deactivation privilege. And that is the idea that you don't need to, because most authors, most artists need to hustle on social media. They have to have that hustle culture so they can sell their wares, so they can promote themselves. But of course, there's an element of prostitution to it as well, right? And it's corrosive to the soul. So I believe that students have that right to deactivate. They should have that privilege all the way through. That when they come to school, they're not worried about what someone else is saying about them online. They're not worried about their self-worth, how popular they are on their latest Instagram. They can focus on their math or their novel or their soliloquy. But I've always hated cell phones. I'm really ticked off, of course, at the spineless Toronto District School Board because everyone knew about this from about 2014 on, how bad cell phones are, how harmful they are, how the rate of suicides amongst teens went up drastically just after 2010, 2012, when smartphones reached about half of the students. It was at that point that suicide rates went up. So detrimental to girls. But they didn't do anything about it. They put their energy into equity. Not very helpful. They could have benefited young people so much more. But my view is they wanted to puff themselves up rather than helping young people in the most effective. But that would require some discipline and some self-regulation, and I think they were a little bit gutless there.
In direct answer to Vincent's question, cell phones are disrespectful, distasteful, and of course they are a distraction.
There. The final likelihood, had I returned for one more year, is that I would have been fired. There's no doubt about it. I often think I see something in the news or I'm mulling over an idea, and I think I just hit the supersaturation point with some of the ideological nonsense. And this is this has been an ongoing fantasy of mine for a long time. It may not be the exact way that I was tasered, handcuffed, and put into a cruiser and forced to leave the building. But in one of the hallways, it's peppered with an axiom. An axiom, by the way, is a statement widely accepted to be true, often taken for granted without requiring proof. It's kind of the cousin to the platitude, and they're the Venn diagram. Sometimes they overlap. But there was an axiom, or one that really bugged me, and it said, "It's okay not to be okay." And I was always tempted to take a permanent marker, an indelible marker, a Sharpie, and write, "But it's better to get better." The reason for that is I cannot stand that ideology of just wallowing in your difficulties. In fact, there's kind of a victim virtuehood that's been going on for years. And to post that kind of propaganda in the form of axioms and platitudes over the school, it drove me nuts. So yeah, in the end, my first four references are kind of fruitless because I would have been fired anyway. Happy New Year. Thank you.